Okay, thank you, Kelsey, for starting us off. That was awesome. So mine is kind of a similar topic on food insecurity. So my name is Melissa Genik, and I recently completed my practicum with the Healthy Campus team at Mount Royal University in Calgary, Alberta. So I would like to start by acknowledging that I live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, and the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. I would like to thank my practicum supervisor, Alex Chiam, who is extremely welcoming and helpful throughout all stages of my practicum project, as well as all members of the Healthy Campus team who included me from day one and invited me to all of their team meetings. I would also like to thank Dr. Jaime Arredondo for your kind feedback and support regarding my culminating report and presentation, as well as Dr. Catherine Worthington, Heather Ulmer, Zara Premji, Nancy Ami, and Madeline Walker. So the Healthy Campus team is a part of Wellness Services at Mount Royal University, which is also known as MRU, and is dedicated to health promotion. So team members include a Healthy Campus team lead, an admin assistant, 2 health promotion specialists, 1 Stepping Up program coordinator, 1 health outreach coordinator, as well as 1 mental health outreach coordinator. So food insecurity among Canadian post-secondary students has always existed. However, not until recently has research been done to measure the true prevalence and impact. So food insecurity is different from hunger, in that all hungry people are food insecure, but not all food insecure people are hungry. For example, food insecurity exists when a person reduces the quantity or quality of the food they eat as they rely on low-cost foods and/or the intake of cultural and traditional foods due to barriers in cost and access. So in a large study conducted by Meal Exchange in 2016, data was collected from 5 Canadian universities, so Brock, Dalhousie, Lakehead, Ryerson, and the University of Calgary. And the results showed that nearly 2 in 5, so 39% of students, have reported some level of food insecurity, and almost 1/3, so 31.9% of students reported limited access to traditional and cultural foods. So students with severe food insecurity were more likely to report fair or poor general and mental health, have adverse academic experiences, fail or withdraw from a course, consume fewer fruits, vegetables, legumes, dairy, and calcium, and they were less likely to concentrate in class or during an exam. So more than 50% of university and college revenues no longer come from the government. Therefore, post-secondary institutions have increased tuition due to this shortfall. International students in particular pay high levels of tuition, helping to fund many Canadian post-secondary institutions. So studies have shown that higher levels of food insecurity were seen in students who rely on loans and employment to pay for school as compared to students who rely on scholarships or family. And higher rates of food insecurity were also seen in marginalized population groups. Student food insecurity is often normalized by the starving student stereotype and is seen as a necessary rite of passage for post-secondary students. So due to this stereotype and the stigma associated with being food insecure, many post-secondary students, including those who are at an increased risk, will not reach out for help. So for my practicum project, I conducted a literature review where my research question was to examine the recommendations for food insecurity strategies, policies, and initiatives at Canadian post-secondary institutions. So this literature review was followed by an environmental scan, an internal scan, a policy brief, as well as educational materials. So in collaboration with Zara Premji, a librarian at UVic, we came up with a search stream and 6 databases to maximize the search results for my literature review. So to determine eligibility, articles were screened by title, abstract, and full text, and 20 articles from the databases and 9 articles/reports from the gray literature met the inclusion criteria and were included in the literature review. To briefly touch base on the environmental scan, so I started by researching food insecurity strategies, policies, initiatives, and programs that were Canada-wide. I then looked on each provincial and territorial government website, as well as each Canadian post-secondary institution website. So this slide provides a very brief example that was taken from my environmental scan. So for the internal scan, I then also looked at food insecurity strategies, policies, initiatives, and programs, but this time that were currently taking place at MRU. So the Students Association, which is also known as SAMRU, plays a major role in food security. And MRU also has a community garden where volunteers can take home free produce. And the Niskum Center for Indigenous Students has a separate emergency bursary, and they also offer grocery gift cards for students in need. So the library also runs a Food for Fines program where students can donate one non-perishable food item on Tuesdays, and this decreases their library fine by $5. So for my policy brief, my recommendation was to create a campus-wide initiative at MRU to address student food insecurity. So for this recommendation, I used the 6 themes from the literature review and I tailored it to MRU. So the 6 themes, along with specific examples from the literature, are as follows. So to start, to engage a variety of stakeholders. So stakeholders on a university level may include people from food services, at the Department of Indigenous Affairs, International Student Services, Student Health and Counseling, student unions, the Office of Financial Aid, and campus food banks. Another common theme that came up was to eliminate financial barriers. So advocate for increased and widely available options through scholarships, grants, bursaries, and student loans. You want to prioritize vulnerable populations. So all campus food needs to be made healthy and accessible for all students. And the food culture needs to reflect, support, and celebrate the diversity present within the post-secondary community. You want to include grassroots initiatives. So some of these examples could be emergency food vouchers, grocery gift cards, campus food banks, food pantries, cultural food boxes, farmers markets, and community gardens. You want to utilize awareness strategies. So campus-wide conversations need to occur to educate, advocate, and address student food insecurity. And finally, to support surveillance and data collection. So to monitor prevalence and inform programming and advocacy efforts, campus-wide community surveys need to include questions on food insecurity. So for the educational materials, I created 3 separate infographics. So this first one here is an infographic on the data present, and this is an infographic on food security resources at MRU, and this is an advocacy infographic. And I also wrote a short post on food insecurity in post-secondary students, and it has been uploaded to the Mount Royal Campus Well website. So in conclusion, food insecurity is a complex issue, as we all know, and in order to mitigate the risk and address the root causes, a comprehensive plan that encompasses all of the identified themes from the literature review is needed. So this includes a combination of both upstream and downstream initiatives. Although there has been a large amount of Canadian post-secondary food insecurity research in recent years, a current gap in knowledge remains, as the overall impact of these initiatives has not been evaluated for Canadian post-secondary students. So this is an area of research that would be very helpful for post-secondary institutions when determining which strategy, initiative, and/or policy will create the biggest impact in mitigating post-secondary student food insecurity. I would like to thank you all for listening, and I am happy to answer any questions.